that came over and got him. And they put him in house arrest at his house, which is right next to where we're camping. I mean, none of us really knew this until the next morning. And one of the guys that was down there with us had a Colombian girlfriend who could speak Spanish. And she was a pretty nice-looking gal, 25, 30 years old. And she was able to talk the cop into letting our buddy go. He had a gun. Guns are illegal down there. Everything we were doing was illegal down there. But the cop explained to our girlfriend that he was muy borracho y muy ruido. And that's not the only incident. We had one of the guy racing partner of mine who owned the airplane. He got his buggy down in San Felipe one night and was trying to drive it up the steps at the Miramar bar there on the...
I know that bar well.
Yeah, there on the
Malecon.
And the Malecon. And the cops got him, and they were going to haul him off to Mexicali. But one of our cooler friends slipped the guy $25 and said, I'll take care of him. And so the cop let him go. I was never a crazy drunk, so... Drunk maybe, but not mean or...
You're tranquilo, muy tranquilo.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever spend any time fishing or surfing or doing any of the other water sports there, or were you just in the dirt racing cars and having a good time and drinking a beer and laughing at all your friends?
Best I could do is do a little swimming in San Felipe if the water temperature was up. No, I didn't. I wasn't a water sports person. I did water sports in Encinitas when I grew up in high school, but I was really a greaser. I wasn't a surfer, and no fishing.
And so you say no fishing. So when your dad and you're driving the truck down to Bahia de Los Angeles, mostly people in those days were going to Bahia de Los Angeles to fish.
Yeah, my dad would go fishing, and I probably went out with him one time or so, but it certainly wasn't a highlight of my life.
And tell me a little bit about your mom. What did she think about all this?
Well, in the beginning, when I was 14, and she'd go camping with us. But by the time I was in high school, she was done with camping. She'd just stay home, and of course, Fred and I were, my dad, Fred. We weren't out getting drunk, so it wasn't that kind of an issue for her. It was just they're going to be gone for a few days, and then they'll be back.
Good father-son time.
Yeah. We had good time. And my dad was a heavy drinker, but he never missed a day's work that I know.
Came with the territory in those days, though, didn't it?
Well, yeah, but he was a professional drinker. I mean, he had stories. He used to say he had a barroom personality, and that's probably true because he was the life of a party. When the beer came out.
So let's get back to, again, what brought us together. Baja, your passion for Baja and my passion for Baja. What happens to you when you drive across the border? What do you think that the Baja effect is? Do you feel it in your bones? Like, hey, I've gotten out of Tijuana, the coast is on my right, I'm heading south, and there's a feeling that comes over you, or am I just romanticizing it?
Well, the first thing that happens is you crack open a beer, and you have 2 or 3 of those by the time you get to Ensenada. And, you're still plenty sober. So then you go through Ensenada, maybe stop for dinner. So, I mean, you're beginning to be loose. You don't do that in the States anywhere. And I don't know if there's some mystic feeling. It's just, you're just going to go down there and you're going to have a good time.
And when you crossed back to the relative sanity and safety of the United States, did you ever feel like, whew, I dodged a bullet. I got back in one piece, or I only got back with scratches, no stitches?
For the first 15 years of my going to Baja, every time when I left there, I said, I ain't never going back.
Never going back.
I'm never going back to Baja. And it would take about 6 months. This was before racing. And it would take about 6 months, and we'd be having a beer somewhere, daring each other or suggesting that, let's go down. We'll do it right this time. Let's go. I mean, when we took that 40 Dodge down to L.A. Bay,
and remind me, what year was that? 50 what?
That was like 61.
1960.
Yeah,
61.
61. Well, about 2 or 3 years later, we realized we weren't going to get the truck on down further south, and that why didn't somebody go down and get it? Well, a friend of mine who was a good 10 years older than me, and I was probably 23. One summer from college, we decided to go down and get that truck. It would take our motorcycles. Well, I had a 500cc Veloset. It didn't have any lights. It was strictly a dirt bike. And he had a Greaves, Jawa, 250 Jawa that he'd race out in the desert, hare and hound things. And so we loaded up, went down to get that thing, and we drove for 13 hours out of Tijuana that day before I went over the handlebars in the dark because there's no lights. Trying to get about 10 miles out of L.A. Bay.
Just trying to get there. We're just trying to get there. We're in the dark. We're just trying to get there.
Right, and
it's only 10 more miles.
And the darker it got, the faster we went. Now,
and it's pretty damn dark there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's dark, and that's the exact thing you're not supposed to be doing. The darker it gets, the slower you should be going. But it was like, we only had a little ways to go, and we'd get a bed instead of sleeping out here in the sand. But we slept right where I went over the handlebars, and then we were going down there to pick up the truck, so we were going to put the bikes in the back of the truck and bring the truck home, which we did the next day. I found a welder that would weld my rear hub on the motorcycle to the hub so that the 4 out of the 5 lug nuts that I'd lost, the wheel wouldn't drop off. And we loaded it up and we left. And we decided to go to San Felipe, even though we'd gone down the west side. But we didn't know about the Three Sisters there south of Puertecitos, which was just a horrendous in those days. It was it had 1 foot tall ledges that you had to climb up over 3 mountain passes, just rocks. And remember, this is the truck that would fall on its face if it. And we hit those goddamn mountains in a pitch black. The wind was blowing. We didn't know how far the ocean was down below us, but we could hear the waves crashing. And with one hill, the worst one, we had to make a run at 3 different times. In fact, we had to unload the bikes to finally make it up. Had to drop back down this goddamn hill with a flashlight, a dim flashlight that he was shining.
I was going to say, you didn't have those big, rigid off-road lights that everybody has that turns night into day here now.
I mean,
you've got a dim flashlight.
And we made San Felipe after about 24 hours of leaving L.A. Bay. And, I mean, that was a perfect case of I ain't never going back to Baja again. When we got home, it was over.
Not for all the beer in the world. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, amen.
Well, I think it's been a delightful chat with you, Pete, and I really am thrilled that you got a chance to talk to me about your Baja days. What's your takeaway? Again, when was the last time you were down there, and what's your takeaway Do you think that things have changed, or do you think that you've changed, or do you think that just there's so much more reporting about everything that you hear about stuff you didn't hear about before? What's your take on Baja these days?
Well, there's all that, but I wouldn't be a bit afraid to go anywhere in Baja. Although I don't do it much anymore, hardly. I haven't been down in, I think it's been going on 3 years now. And really don't anticipate going again. I don't have the vehicles for it. I wouldn't go down just to be on the pavement in my Prius. So, but gee, if you have an off-road car, and it's still the place to go. Go down, watch the races, or go down and fishing, or I wouldn't be I'm not afraid of the drug runners down there. They're not going to kill me because I'm not in their way. They wouldn't have any compunction against killing me, but there's no reason to.
Yeah. So, how do you get past all the hype, and what would you say to somebody who maybe is going to take their first drive down to Baja? What advice would you have as a 50-plus year veteran of the peninsula?
Well, just get a map and go. Do your research, whatever you got time for. But all you need is a map. Try to keep track of where you're going to get your next gas if you're south of Ensenada. But there's about a 300-mile stretch from El Rosario to Guerrero Negro where there isn't any gas stations. Well, maybe it's 250. But it's too far for a motorcycle, and
or a Land Cruiser that only gets 10 miles to the gallon and doesn't have an auxiliary tank.
But the Mexicans have the same trouble, so they've got pickup trucks along the way with 50-gallon drums of gas that they'll sell you gas for.
And it's only a little bit more expensive than the regular stuff.
Yeah,
they take their cut, but they don't hurt you.
It's not near as much as I'd charge for gas. For hauling it that far.
Given the work that goes into it, exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah. And I had extra gas the last time I rolled through there, and I bought some anyways just to say, you know what, this guy's out here doing it, so I bought 5 gallons for him just to make sure I was going to get where I was going because, it was good insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
The interesting thing that I've experienced in Baja is if you have a problem, you're pulled over on the side of the road, a gringo's not going to stop for you in his RV. It's going to be local farmer Juan. He's going to be the guy with a Datsun B210 with 6 people in it that's going to make room for you or tow you on running on 3 cylinders and 3 balled tires, right? You're laughing, but you know it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the guy that's going to save your bacon.
Yeah. Most of the thievery that goes down there, just kind of sneaky stuff. They probably don't break your windows out.
Yeah, you've got more than I do, and I'm going to take it out of the back of your truck because you've got more than I do.
Yeah, and versus up here in the States, they're just going to steal it from you. I mean, it's sneaky versus stealing.
Well, I'm going to ask you a couple other questions. We're going to wrap it up here. Tell me about your. Do you have a favorite taco in Baja? Is there a place that when you're crossing the border, you mentioned that you get in the right mindset, drink a beer or two? Is there a spot in Tijuana or Rosarito or Ensenada where you just say, oh, man, we've got to pull over because this is my favorite taco in the whole peninsula?
I'll stop at the roadside stands, mostly.
And what's your go-to order? What do you...
Well, I might... a burrito as well, but I'm happy with a taco. Tacos are probably more prevalent.
Carne asada, al pastor, chicken, does it matter to you?
No, carnitas, I like carnitas, but it doesn't matter to me. Might have a seafood cocktail. Those stands are out there along the road.
Sure, especially San Felipe.
And I always stop at in El Rosario at Mama Diaz's. Or not Mama Diaz.
No, Mama Espinosa's.
Yeah, Mama Espinosa.
So what did she, what was her famous saying? Hang on here. Good roads, bad people, bad roads, good people, something to that effect was Mama Espinosa's famous saying. You were down there when the roads were really bad.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah. I mean, the bad roads keep the good people out, or keep the bad people out. Yeah.
Yeah. bad roads, good people. Good roads, bad people.
Yeah.
That was her saying.
Whenever you ask